sure where I'm going. So I picked this song this morning. It's one of my favorites, Cortana, from a CD called Deep Surrender. It's been one of those weeks. It's been one of those weeks. Ever had one of those weeks? You know, I know at a head level, I know everything that Glenda's been talking about. I've read that book. I've read Eckhart Tolle. I am very clear at this level about what it looks like to say yes and how beneficial that is. And there are some times when I just gotta wave the red flag and surrender to something greater, whatever that is, that power is greater than I am to get me through, you know? Life sometimes shows up and it can really, really take a toll. I know we've all been there, or maybe some of us are there right now. Stuff just keeps coming up, right? Things don't always go according to plan. Well, this week we got that email about Common Ground's progress with our move, and, well, none of it is going according to our plan, right? I'd love to control that. People aren't always loving and loyal. Well, that's the truth. That's the truth. Pain is part of life. All kinds of pain. Physical pain. Sometimes it's hard to get through the day when you're in physical pain, isn't it? Yeah, it really is. All kinds of pain. Life isn't always fair. Stuff shows up and you're going, doggone it, that's just not fair. I paid my dues here. Why am I dealing with this again? How come this is so hard? And everything changes. Boy, I'll tell you, and when it all comes the same week, you know, you just want to wave the flag and say, I give up, I'm done, I surrender. I surrender. I surrender to the unknown, to the uncomfortable. I surrender to letting, you know, I gotta let go of the outcome of all these things that keep popping up in my day, even though I know that my saying yes and all the other wonderful practices would make it better. There comes a point where I just got to surrender to myself in the experience. Do you know what I mean? Just because life is very unpredictable. And so I always rely on my one safety zone, and that is basic trust. Basic trust in the universe. That there is a greater something going on within all of this that I don't know. I love Daniel's song. I don't need to know, God knows. There's something within all of this that I just don't know. And by my willingness to surrender to whatever that might be, which heaven only knows what that could be, there will be in that the answer for me. It's that waving the red flag. You know what? I can breathe into this. Because right now, I'm not wanting to say, yeah, this is awesome, this is awesome. So I've been working with this book by Adyashanti for many, many years, Emptiness Dancing. He's one of my favorite teachers. And actually, he says exactly the same thing that David Rico says. He says, many people have said that when you dig down to the deepest level of human emotional makeup, the primary emotion that keeps human beings suffering is fear. I haven't found that to be true. I find that the core issue that keeps human beings suffering is a desire and the will to control. Fear arises when you think you have no control, or when you become afraid that you have no control but haven't given up the desire to control. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's me. When we get it that we don't have any control, and that's when the fear comes in. So it's really this issue of control, wanting to, you know, manipulate and manage and sort of orchestrate our life experience, and then find out it's pointless, doesn't work. Most of it's uninvited, and it's just taking its own, you know, we got to go with the flow of it, right? That's why I love this image of, I'm going to pull in the oars of my tiny boat and just stop trying to paddle so darn hard to get wherever I think that boat needs to go. Pull in the oars and allow it to go a little bit softer and go with the flow. Because what I know is when I'm not doing that, I suffer. And then I go into fear. When I go into fear, all kinds of stuff starts happening. My body feels different, like Linda said. I get that TMJ thing, you know, I am a little more prone to worry with this issue that I have with panic disorder. All these things start happening, and it's not a good place for me to go. You know, whenever I take this position of, when I recognize it in myself, and that's the big deal, recognizing in myself, when I'm standing in a firm position and saying, my way or the highway, my way or the highway, you know? And I gotta tell you, at some level, we all have this sort of reptilian, primal belief that it is sort of like a biological imperative that if I can control my life, I'm gonna survive. You know what I mean? If I can just get a handle on this, everything's gonna be okay. I can survive through this. And actually, there's a part of that that's very true. If I can control myself from stepping out in front of an automobile, then that is true. I am going to survive. But so much of what we find in our life experience where we're trying to control, you know what? We will survive, whether we control it or not. Like Linda said, it's not life or death. And so we've just got to stop insisting that everything goes my way, that you know, all the people put the signature and the stamp on the dotted line and we just move ahead on our time schedule. There's something here I don't know. There's something moving in this energy for just specifically for the delay for Common Ground's move that I just don't know about. We're all ready. We got the money. We got the stuff. We keep getting more and more stuff in the children's room. People keep giving us beautiful couches and fireplaces and stuff. We're ready to go. There's something about this that I don't know that I need to surrender to. We've all got those places in our lives. My mom and I had breakfast yesterday morning like we do every Saturday morning. And as she was leaving the car when I dropped her off, she reminded me, we were talking about, you know, miracles and all this sort of thing. And she told me about a story that she had read in the newspaper. Many of you probably know this. I looked it up on the internet because I'm not a newspaper person. About the gentleman whose daughter had died, and then he was in such financial trouble that he was being evicted from his home, and he and his wife were packing up their belongings, and they had placed a cookie jar in the now dead daughter's bedroom, and it was filled with lottery tickets. And he opened that cookie jar up and took out those lottery tickets, and more than $4 million later. Now, in a way, he was surrendered to the situation. He was surrendered to the idea that the house was in foreclosure, that they were being evicted, that they were packing up, the daughter's gone, and now this happens. This unknown, unpredictable experience, totally out of control, right? Out of control. And I loved what he said. He said, it's the Lord. And that's the truth. It's always the Lord. It's always the Lord. It's always that energy of the divine moving in these experiences that we just don't know about. And I love what he said. He was going to, you know, he had certain things he was going to do with the money, daughter's college, other daughter's college funds, and these various things. And he was going to give it to charity and to his church. Do good things with this, you see. Share. I just love this story because it shows what happens when really, how more surrendered can you get? Your child dies, your home is gone, your stuff is being packed up, and then this. Interesting, interesting. I don't need to know, God knows. God knows the answers to these things. So what I know is surrender, this kind of surrender where we can actually pull in the oars and stop paddling so darn hard. It's a huge spiritual practice. It's a big practice because we can know it all up here, but boy, until we can actually walk it and demonstrate it and express it when we're right in the middle of whatever the heck is going on, all it is knowledge. All it is knowledge. We've got to be able to demonstrate it. And it goes back to that Christian saying, not my will, but thy will. It's the foundation of the 12-step program. Let go and let God. It's that deep surrender to the isness of the experience. I think there's great wisdom in the serenity prayer. Accepting the things I can't change. Having the wisdom and the courage to move through my life in a surrendered way. It's a big, big practice. You know, the second step, those of you who are 12-steppers, you know, the second step says, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. This is basic trust. Basic trust that there is within all of this stuff of life some energy that is moving it forward, that's moving the boat, that's helping the boat flow without our needing to paddle so hard. And I love what Ajahn Shanti says. So the question is, well, how do I let go of control? How do I do that? And I love what he says. Anytime you're asking the question, how do I do it? There's an element of control. Think about that. Anytime I say, how am I going to do this? It's all about taking control of the outcome. And so he says, there is no how. Just do it. Oh yeah, right? Really? He says it's simple. Just let go of the demand on the present moment. Now maybe it's simple for him. He's a Zen practitioner. He's a master teacher, and maybe he finds this simple. I don't. I don't find this simple, but I find it inviting to remember that I can't decide not to control. I can only open to grace and take the next step. Let go, let God. That's all I can do. And the other thing is this. The only thing that I can control, the only thing I can control, and sometimes even that doesn't work, is me. I am the only thing that I'm in charge of. I'm in charge of my responses. I'm in charge of what I say. I'm in charge of what I do. I'm in charge of the thoughts I hold. The only thing that I can control is me. I cannot control how other people behave. I can't control the things that they choose to do. I can't control what they say to me or anybody else. I can't control how people act toward me or anybody else. I can't control the weather, the traffic, the building department, the fire department, politics, Congress, life and death. I can't control a whole lot. But what I can control is how I show up, how I respond to all of that stuff. And this is fueled by this basic trust in the universe, this basic trust that there is something within all of this that is working together for good, that is moving us forward in our journey. Does it always feel good? No. Are there times of fear? Absolutely. Absolutely. I finally got it after this week when I was working with the handout for today. I went, oh, I need to work with these questions. I need to, what's preventing me from letting go? What's preventing me from letting go of the outcome of things in my life, from being okay with living in uncertainty? What is that? How do I tend to insist that things in my life be different than they are? Oh, I need to do a little research on that. Am I willing to completely trust that there is this higher power moving through all this stuff? Am I really willing to trust that? So I finally got it after a week of agitation, let's say. After a week of TMJ, like Linda was talking about. So here's the invitation. I invite all of you to join me in this practice. Do the work, get the knowledge, figure out what it would take for us to say yes, to be present with the experience of our life. And then, like Linda said, stop insisting that things be different than they are. Stop placing a demand on the present moment. Have the courage to completely trust, like the 12-step program invites us to do, completely trust life to the power that is beyond this small self, this personality self that thinks it knows everything. Have the courage to trust that. Remember that the only thing that you can control is you. You're never going to control anybody else, anything else, any situation. It just doesn't happen that way. And as I close my talk, I refer back to the lyrics of Krishnana's song, and I love it. If you're growing weary, like I was for most of this week, if you're growing weary, just pull in the oars, of your tiny little boat and go with the flow for a while. It's a whole lot easier to surrender to the essence of the experience. Thank you for listening.